Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of Pod by the Bay. I'm your host, Nathan Bond, joined alongside me, Seth Varnadore, and Robert Steeg, the recently betrothed. We are three-man weaving this pod, uh, coming off a pretty impressive victory as the South Florida Bulls defeat the Rice Owls 42-29 inside Raymond James Stadium in front of an announced crowd of a little over 29,000. Wink, wink, not even close. Love that for your South Florida Bulls. Um, Steeg, I'm going to start with you first because there's absolutely no way you had any care in the world about this game with
Yeah.
what went on.
Yeah.
But give me the vibes check as a guy who didn't really care about what was going on because of real life stuff, fun stuff. But as you come back into the USF world on a victory, what to Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah, Victory Tuesday. So when I was on so our flight out of Boston left at kickoff. So I went into it thinking I'm I'm just gonna check the final score when I land and then just sift through all the crap on Twitter and social media feeds and everything like that and just deal with what happened. But fortunately my flight had good Wi-Fi on it, so I was able to keep track of what was going on in the game without watching it live. So the vibes were immaculate. I don't think at any particular point I felt bad, but it was probably because I was kind of watching everyone else react to it, and so I was able to kind of have like a neutral. Like if I watched that fumble on the 1 yard line and then subsequent like 80-yard touchdown pass, I probably would have felt a lot more different than I did. But like I just couldn't help but laugh. Like it was just like I didn't see how it happened. I didn't see if like Naquan Wright like put the ball on the ground and just kind of like bird saluted everyone out of there or something like that. But I think for me at least, where it was in the back seat of anything going on that was happening at the time, it was great to just kind of check in on it, see what the scores were, and just every time that Byron Brown hit Naeem Simmons on a deep hitter, it was just like everyone was like, "Oh my god, again!" Like, how is he doing this? Like, where was this last week? How was this not here in like FAMU or for Western Kentucky or for Bama or anything like that? So it was fun to watch, at least as far as like once it got like midway through the third and on, once like the game started getting put away. But yeah, it was great.
Seth, you were inside the stadium.
I was.
It was a little dicey during that two-play stretch there, the fumble and the
Yeah.
ensuing deep shot touchdown. But like Steve said, kind of the game was never like the offense started to click toward the end of the first half, and then they exploded in the second with the adjustments. What did you feel kind of going into halftime? It was 14-13, and then what you saw basically the first two offensive drives from USF that kind of sparked basically the route.
Yeah, I thought the offense played pretty well for most of the day. Even on some of the drives where they ended up having to punt or kick field goals, they were weird. Like the one where they thought they drew the guy offside, so they snapped it and ran the free play, but they didn't. So even when they get stopped at times, there was kind of weird circumstances around it. So, um, and we were up in the box and we could kind of see what Rice was doing defensively. And we just kept talking like, are they going to stop running this coverage that they keep running, or are they just going to keep doing it? And they just kept doing it. So you felt like if they don't change, USF is going to keep moving the ball on them and be able to hit some shots on them, which is what happened. I know there was a lot of hand wringing at halftime about the defensive performance, but you only gave up 14 points in the first half. To what I thought, and we'll see if Daniels gets back healthy. But I thought it was a really, really good Rice offense, really well coordinated too, like good play calling.
Yeah,
Things flowed really well, and he was on. So if they get him back, I think they're going to do some damage offensively in this league. But I felt the USF offense was kind of getting exactly what they wanted for most of the game. Then they came out the second half, did a little bit of double tight end stuff, just to make the picture a little bit even more clear, just to get the safeties even a little bit tighter and really make those one-on-one shots really, really clear. And Byron was able to hit him. And I think you asked about in the press conference, they started him out in a rhythm, and he was able to stay in that rhythm. And he was really, really good.
Yeah, he completed his first 8 passes of the game, something that hasn't really happened the previous 3 games. And Golesh kind of made a point to mention that after the Alabama game, that he needs to do a better job. The staff needs to do a better job of kind of getting him into a rhythm earlier in the game. And it sure seemed like it worked. We love the PFF passing stats, passing direction. We'll get deeper into it on the next episode of the Ponderosa, but this one kind of stood out as something that has not happened yet for USF and Byron Brown this season. But on throws 20 yards down the field and more, he was money. And by money, I mean he went 6 of 10 for 304 yards and a touchdown. Like, you can't do much better than that.
And that's the offense. If you
Right.
if you get people that try to load up for the run, you've got to be able to hit these shots over the top. And when you do, it's really hard to stop. And so you kind of went back and forth in the second half where you were able to get those shots, and then after that you're able to run a little bit better. You ended up being able to run the ball all right, but Rice really came out focused on stopping that. And if you hit those shots over the top, they've either got to get out of the defense, or if they just keep saying, which I think their strategy was, they hadn't done this all year, we're going to keep making them do it. And you did it. So we'll see what you get going forward. But this offense so far, and like you said, we'll talk more kind of in depth on the numbers, but right now this offense is really all about explosiveness. Have not had that consistency yet. I think as league play, as you get into further into league play, you'll see that. But right now it's just explosiveness is kind of where they're getting all their value from. Not great down to down. And Rice kind of enabled them to be able to play like that. So, I understand kind of Rice's plan, but man, you think they would have got out of it after 3 50-yard bombs to Naeem Simmons, but they decided not to.
Yeah, you'd think that. And the thing that was kind of really impressive to me, so I was kind of looking at the drives and the quarterback kind of situation, I guess, toward the end of the first half. So 4 minutes left in the first half. These are some of the chunk plays that Byron Brown hits and starts to get into the rhythm. 53 to Simmons, and then opens the third quarter with a 51-yarder to Simmons, has a 59-yarder, a 42, a 49 that goes for a touchdown, a 52. He started to get into rhythm, and I don't know if anybody, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably listened to Split Zone Duo, beautifully produced by Anthony Vito. But Richard Johnson, who writes for Sports Illustrated, has always kind of talked about how schematically Tennessee, especially this year with Joe Milton, like, it hasn't been great, but there are going to be games where they hit these deep shot and they just bomb you out of the stadium. And this kind of felt like that just for USF, same kind of offense. It was kind of sputtering, and then they just kept hitting bomb after bomb after bomb, and you saw the results in the second half. They put up kind of a 406 yards of total offense in the second half, 9.7 yards per play. Like, you're not going to lose very many games when you're averaging nearly a first down a play.
Oh yeah,
no, that's tough. That's tough.
That's pretty good in my experience of college football. And I think the part that makes this offense kind of have a little bit more wrinkle is that it's, yes, you have the deep threat, but you still have Byron Brown, who is the best rushing quarterback in college football right now.
Yep.
If I'm standing correct, it's not like if it's not open deep, like he's going to bail out to a guy underneath. He'll run the ball. And I know Golesh talked about today in the presser where, he might need to be smarter about how he's running the ball and where he's running the ball and everything, and sliding, and maybe not try to pick up a few extra yards every once in a while. But it feels like this offense is getting back to the dynamic nature that we thought it was going to be at maybe, later on this year, maybe next year, like that dynamic. Okay, the deep passes aren't hitting. You still have Byron Brown. You still have Naquan Wright. Maybe the short game is what's going to be your savior here, and maybe you can get one or two deep balls. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun when those 50-yard bombs start hitting. I'll say that.
Agreed.
It was an enjoyable watch from up top. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and we've kind of talked about it brick by brick. This team has, outside of the 3 turnovers against Western, they were in that game. It was a one possession game before that interception in the end zone. FAMU, you struggle a little bit, you still get the win. Alabama game is going to go down in history as like one of the best losses USF football's ever had. Like that was just playing out quite literally outside of your mind. And what JT Daniels was able to do against this USF defense, it probably just shows a glaring hole of how bad the Alabama quarterback situation is.
Yeah, we talked about this in the press box. Are the 2 Alabama quarterbacks the worst 2 USF has seen this season? I think it's like not even close, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think Tyson's going to be pretty good.
I'd take Musa over both those 2 other guys, right? Like,
yeah, easily.
Not even close.
It's not even close, and I'm sure Lane Kiffin is kicking himself that he this is probably the worst Bama's going to be for a very long time, and still couldn't get the job done. So, tough break for our guy Charlie Weiss Jr., who could only muster 14 points against Alabama. Tough stuff.
10.
10. Oh,
and it's sad they even knew who the DC was, but I guess T-Rob called a really good game.
I guess so. Tough stuff. Matt,
oh, nice.
Oh,
for the listeners at home, my daughter just gave me a smooch and went off to bed.
What a kid!
It was like the Grinch. Yeah, it was like the Grinch when he's trying to steal a Christmas tree. Like, taps her on the head and off to bed.
Well.
So, lots of awards over the last 2 weeks, especially this week. Davey O'Brien award, Manning Watch award, whatever. I mean, pick an award. Byron Brown was it. He was the conference player of the week. I saw Dan Mullen had him as because Dan Mullen is now an analyst or commentator. Byron Brown was one of the top performers. Naeem Simmons was one of the top performers. Kirk Herbstreit had that duo of Byron Brown and Naeem Simmons as one of the best ones in the of week 4. Just everything worked out perfectly. And the stat that still blows my absolute freaking mind, standing on the sideline, Joey Johnson leans over to me and one of the folks on the board of trustees and goes, 272. That is the state record by any player receiving yards in a game by a wide receiver in the state of Florida. And
FBS.
We just kind of looked at him and you're like, you're that can't be right. He goes, yep, 1968 broke the record. 272 yards by Naeem Simmons. Talk about the folks have played college football in the state of Florida. Andre Johnson, Santana Moss, Sonoris Moss, Michael Irvin, Fred Bolitnikoff. I'm pretty sure, right? He went to Florida State.
Yeah, Peter Warwick. Florida, you've had Percy Harvin, Riddell Anthony, Ike Hilliard, Jacquez Green, Carlos Alvarez, Wes Chandler. And then you had T.Y. Hilton. There's been a lot of pretty good ones.
Gabe Davis was a very talented wide receiver in college at Central Florida. I mean, the list goes on. Brashad Perriman, who runs like a 4.140 at 30 years old, it feels like. Stone hands, but still really fast. It's incredible that the guy who was at an FCS less than 1 year ago was playing FCS football has the FBS record by a college wide receiver in the state of Florida. And he's playing out of position, no less. That's truly incredible. That is your bar trivia question. For extra points, sports bar trivia, who has the receiving yardage record in a single game by a player who played in a college in the state of Florida? That's it. That's the answer. He's got to be one of the most obscure answers to that across all 50 states.
We'll see. We'll see how the
Probably.
rest of the season goes. But that may change.
And Simmons is up to 357 yards through 4 games. That puts him on pace for just a hair over 1,000 yards, which, if it holds up, would be the first 1,000-yard receiver in USF history. Byron Brown is also on pace for a 3,000-1,000 season. That would be the first 3,000-yard passer in USF history. Records are meant to be broken, even records of futility. Last couple of years, I've been keeping track of that. I think Army has a guy that's kind of on pace as well. Records can drop this season, folks, with a explosive offense.
Yeah, I think if the game went on for another couple quarters, Naeem Simmons might have got to 1,000 by the end of the game. So I think the biggest issue is how much you think. Now it seems like that might be something where one guy can really break out. We'll see if they can have it where you have a couple guys kind of getting over that 100-yard plateau. So far, it seems to be concentrated more on one guy having kind of bigger numbers. But theoretically, they should be able to spread it out pretty well. So that could be kind of the bigger detriment. But if he kind of keeps getting the one-on-one matchups, and we saw he can run. Like, he's not. I'm not sure why he ended up at Wagner, but guys that happens all the time. But he can go. So I think we'll see him get a couple more explosives, and you're hoping this week. Now they're pretty good at stopping him, but that would be a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple more highlights, as we kind of wrap up this episode, just kind of recapping what a fun game it was. Kawan Powell, fantastic game by him. 9 carries, 55 yards, a touchdown. Had a phenomenal touchdown, 26-yard touchdown rush, where he kind of broke through the line, made a cut, and was gone. It was really impressive by him, a bigger back, being able to show that kind of agility inside the tackle box to get out and make a move in open space.
Yeah, and he's kind of, interestingly enough, according to the snap count data we saw, I think he had 30. I think it was, the breakdown was like 47 or 57. I can't remember, for Naquan Wright, 31 for Kalen Powell, and then 0 for Mikey Dukes. So Kalen Powell's had the second most carries on the team in 3 of the 4 games. The only one he didn't was the FAMU game, which Mikey Dukes got a bunch of carries there. But Kalen Powell's kind of seemingly solidified at number 2. I don't know. It's what it feels like, and he's taking advantage of his opportunities. That's for sure.
Yeah, and guy that only got 2 snaps over the weekend was Kelly Joyner. He kind of went to the slot during the spring, kind of stayed there due to injuries and whatnot. It seems like they've kind of solidified your top 3 receivers, Simmons, Adkins, and then a combination of, Joffrey Brown and Michael Brown-Stevens kind of splitting reps there. Why not put Kelly Joyner back at running back and kind of get him involved? I think those speed options are going to be a lot deadlier with him back there. They tried to do a kind of a jet sweep with him, and he got stopped for, I think it was like a loss of 3. I believe that was his only touch of the game. So try to be a little bit more creative with the speed you got there with Kelly Joyner.
Yeah, and he's been effective at running back in the past. So it's not like he's never done it and it's all like projection. He's been a good player, and I think he would fit in their run game really well too. You obviously needed him for depth, but we saw Jaquan Smith dressed and participating in pregame warmups. Maybe, if it's only going to be 2 reps, now maybe you don't want to waste him. But, I think Tyree Kelly's played 2 games right now and played 5 snaps or something like that. So if you can use the guy, or Sean Atkins can take all the snaps in the slot seemingly. But to have Joyner there for 2 snaps feels like he could serve you better at other places. But again, we're not at practice, so it's hard to say for sure. But just based on his past performance, he's been a positive player for you in the past at running back. So moving him there wouldn't be the worst idea, I don't think.
No.
Agree. With that, we're done. There's a short one this evening, short one today. Uh, the
Oh,
Ponderosa
one
is going to be a
thing.
little bit longer.
I did remember one thing, and it didn't get mentioned. So the victory over Rice was the first victory that USF has had in a game that they weren't favored in I think 26 games. It's like it was like a ridiculously high amount. This was the first time that going into the game, Rice was favored by 2.5. Um, any victories in the Howard, Florida A&M, and Temple, all of those USF was favored in. The last time that USF was not favored in a game was that BYU game back in God knows when, I can't remember.
2019.
So yeah, 2019. So it's been almost 4 years since USF won a game that they were not favored in. Did not happen in the Jeff Scott era at all. So yeah, I expected a Brett McMuffin tweet about it, but he didn't. So whatever.
700 days since their last FBS win versus Temple in 2021. This is the latest USF has been at 500 or above this late into the season since the were we not 7-0 2018 season, where they started 7-0 and lost the final 6 games. So there you have it.
Historically.
So,
if you want
there you
our
go.
Rice, or if you want the Navy preview, check out the Ponderosa. We're having a guest on. We've got Mike James of the Mid Report on to get the Navy side of the story, and then we'll go into some advanced stats we kind of teased here today. So if you want that, it's part of the Patreon. $10 a month gets you basically 12 extra pieces of content a month. So pretty good deal.
I agree. With that, go Bulls.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.